that has roughly $617 million that will go out and is going out to Iowa counties directly. If you remember, in terms of the CARES Act dollars, those dollars were given to the state, and then the counties had to go and cities had to go through the state to apply. And then there was an application process specifically on projects too, on their eligibility. And then the state ultimately had to rule if those projects were eligible. This is different because the funding, this round of funding of the American Rescue Plan goes directly to Iowa counties instead of going to the state. There is also a pool of money, roughly around $1.2 billion, that is also going directly to the state of Iowa. And the cities will be receiving additional funding as well. However, they have to go through the process like that we had to do with the CARES Act dollars. And so the state and the cities are going through that process right now of drawing down those dollars. And so for those that have been active within your county in regard to doing any planning, we have roughly around 80 counties right now that have already said they plan on receiving this funding. And for those first of all, there is no deadline to apply for this funding. That's a big question I get asked often. So if you have a county right now that you're part of a county that hasn't applied for this funding yet, no, there literally is no deadline for that. And so you should, each county has it broken down in terms of what their allocation is. And a lot of this information we have on our website of what each county will be receiving. For those counties that have already applied and have been accepted, you should have already received the first half of your allotment already. And then you will receive the second half of the funding for your county 1 calendar year after you received your initial funding. And then in terms of deadline to spend the money, you have to at least have the money obligated by 2024, and then it has to be completely out the door and expended by 2026. And so like I said, what we've heard so far is roughly around over 80 counties, a little over 80 counties have already have gone through the process or have or at the end are waiting for approval to receive their funding. So, you know, we've obviously been following things very closely in regard to the U.S. Treasury guidelines. And the 4 main areas that the American Rescue Plan dollars can go towards are probably the biggest is on COVID-19 response. And that could come from a myriad of different things, from frontline workers to small business relief, for even tourism and so forth. And I think just to kind of highlight that off the bat, I think this is one area specifically because of the pandemic and so forth and the need for recreation. I think this is one of the areas that I believe county parks can qualify, or maybe even some conservation projects potentially too as well. Second is on lost revenue your county may have experienced over the pandemic. And that could be a whole host of things: local option sales tax, property tax. The thing that I'm sure there might be a question, okay, park fees, if you've seen things go down and lost revenue as a result of that, that's something I'll have to explore further. But in terms of, you know, lost revenue, you need to consider it countywide. And so on our website, www.iowacounties.org, we have a site specifically dedicated to the American Rescue Plan. And there is a link, if you click on it, to go into how do you determine lost revenue? Well, there is a calculator there. And so I anticipate, in fact, we talked about it further, to work to get some additional resources for counties if they're thinking about going the lost revenue route, basically be backfilled by the American Rescue Plan to make it a very easy process if counties want to go that route. And the biggest thing, because of that, we want to make it easy as possible, because on lost revenue dollars, they literally can be used by anything for the county. So if there's some things and some park projects that ultimately wouldn't maybe potentially fall underneath some of these other areas, if the county determines they've had lost revenue as a result, that's something that parks could be funded with as a result. Premium pay for essential workers is the last one. I just off the top of my head, I'm just in terms of the qualifications, I don't see anything in terms of, let's say, county conservation employees. I guess I would have to explore that further if that's the route your county wants to go down in terms of deeming a conservation employee as an essential or essential worker within your county. I would have to explore that further. And then also wastewater and regular water and broadband infrastructure is the last piece. And that literally does not have to be tied to COVID-19. So that could be another area if you're doing some upgrades in terms of wastewater and water services within county parks. I think I was muted there for a second. Hopefully everyone can hear me now again. So, so right now, the biggest thing that I'm dealing with right now, and ISAC employees are dealing with, are basically answering individual questions on eligibility for projects and so forth as they've received the money. What we have encouraged from ISAC is for each of the counties to create their own work group within the counties, consisting of your supervisors, your auditors, and then all of your department heads. And obviously, if your county hasn't set one up yet, I think that's something that if they need to do, and then also that you need to insist that conservation has a place at the table. And then to ultimately come up with whatever your ultimate wish list is, and to go and compare that to the guidance that we've received from the Treasury. And if there's some things that you have some additional questions about on, would this qualify, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So if Tom, you would want to go to the FAQ portion on the screen. And so I've been getting a lot of questions in regard to would parks specifically qualify for this. And if I don't know if you could scroll down just a little bit, Tom. Thank you. And so the U.S. Treasury updates their FAQs periodically, and this is the latest that came out last week. And so what we see here is, and this is in regard to the interim final rule, of which they've wrapped up the comment period for that. And so we could see some possible changes based on the questions the Treasury might have received after they've cut off the question period. But I think for the most part, what you're seeing here represents the latest specifically in terms of parks, because it's specifically addressed. But also too, the Q&As are going to be constantly updated. If not, it seems like on a weekly basis. So I guess stay tuned on that. But yeah, this first part is fairly broad. It really deals with stronger neighborhoods and communities to address health disparities and social detriments as a result of COVID-19. A lot of this, I would say, would be addressing quality of life issues as a result, and also for social distancing. So I think certainly the parks, I think, would certainly fall underneath that first framework. And then going down a little bit, Tom, would be on, second, obviously that you can use in COVID-19 response dollars for small businesses in all communities. And some of those could be to enhance outdoor spaces. Well, you're not operating a business, but obviously, to enhance outdoor spaces and enhance parks is something that was definitely needed during the pandemic. And then last, on the third point there, many governments have saw, increased use of parks during the pandemic that, resulted increased needs because of damage or, maintenance needs as well. And so it certainly recognizes the decreases in the state and local ability to effectively administer services can constitute a negative economic impact because of the pandemic. So those are really, I've kind of hit on some other things too, where I thought in terms of COVID-19 response, also lost revenue could be calculated and used towards county parks, and then obviously wastewater and water infrastructure. Those dollars could be used for that. And so, like I said, also too, on the lost revenue side, we'll be looking to put some additional information out to make it as easy as possible for counties to calculate lost revenue. And again, those dollars can literally be used for anything that the county deems necessary. So again, so I would go on our website on www.iowacounties.org and click on the ARP. It's still, I believe, in the right hand of the website, and to click on that. And there's some additional things that I know we probably won't address all the questions that you might have today, but then there's some things we have utilized what we call a base camp, which is, for lack of a better term, kind of a public forum that county officials can tap into and ask their questions and hear from other counties on what they're using the dollars for. And then we also have a dedicated email address that folks can email us, and we can respond individually to individuals that might have questions. And that's at ISAC, ISAC, ARP at iowacounties.org. And so, yeah, that was a rather quick overview of things. And so I'll just open it up to any questions anybody might have.
I have nothing in the chat.
Thank you, Jamie, for the information. I guess if you have additional follow-up questions, Jamie gave you the email there that you can follow up with. You can always get a hold of me, and I can pass on information to Jamie as well. If you don't know Jamie, he's also carries our water on the hill and does a lot of work for us for the last 11 years on the trust fund and REAP and those sorts of things. So we appreciate all the work he does on our behalf. He's also a fellow Cyclone, so he's just a general good guy, and looking forward to a really good football season this year. I guess if there aren't any questions, oh, there we go. Scott's got something.
So, yeah, Scott, is it ultimately up to each county committee to determine how the funds are set? So, yeah, I would go, the funding, the ultimate decision makers are the county board supervisors. They'll decide that. And then in terms of the conservation asks, obviously, you go through your conservation board, then to ask the boards of supervisors. So yeah, the committee itself doesn't make, and these are informal committees. There's nothing in the regulations that say you have to. It just makes it a heck of a lot easier that you have, everybody at the table to come up with these projects and so forth. But ultimately, the boards of supervisors will decide how these funds are spent within the county. The other thing that I would strongly recommend too, if you're having questions about, whether this project would be eligible and so forth, to make sure that your boards of supervisors, whatever resolution they pass to expend this funding, it somehow addresses COVID-19. And I'm fairly confident that you will be okay. If someday you would be, counties would be, you wouldn't be, but the counties themselves would be audited by the U.S. Treasury. So I strongly encourage anything that your boards of supervisors pass, make sure, and specifically, addressing any of the park projects, to say, as a result of COVID-19, we've seen, an increase in terms of, let's say, park traffic and so forth. Frontline workers obviously have been staying in county parks and so forth. Having that specific tie-in, I think you'll be in very good shape. All right. So let's see, I'll go through.
Amy, it looks like trail funding. So we have a request, is trail funding an eligible expense for additional or maintenance needs of trails?
I would say so, because of the increase for social distancing and a need for additional recreation. I would feel comfortable funding trails. I think, and I'm kind of getting a theme here in terms of maybe, moving forward, if there's some things that you might have had on the back burner that, I don't know, if they're already in the system, can we use that to fund existing projects that you might have? Right now, according to the Treasury guidelines, it's basically using this from March going forward. So that might get a little trickier if you're looking for things on, projects you already might have had in the pike. And then trail improvements, we got that. Trails.
Environmental improvements, it looks like. So like tree plantings, derecho, from the effects of the derecho.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have some, a little bit of consternation in regard to the derecho, as this is basically just COVID-19 related type projects. But let's say, for instance, you might have had a need of some damage to some infrastructure as a result of the derecho. I would say that, and then the need that you are seeing moving forward for increased camping experiences and so forth. I think that might be a way to move those projects forward. If things were delayed, that's another thing too. I get a lot of questions on other infrastructure projects, and just because of the costs of material, you could invest these dollars in those type of projects. Yeah, and dollars for sewer and water infrastructure and a planned campground. I would feel comfortable investing that.
Looks like Dan Cohen, Dan has mentioned that Buchanan County and several others have contracted with Northeast Iowa RCD for administration.
Yep.
I'm assuming other counties are doing that as well. Our county has hired a part-time person. I don't know if Dan wants to chime in on that, or Jamie.
So is that just on the conservation side, or is it for all the funding?
That was the Board of Supervisors contracted for all the funding in Buchanan.
Yep.
Barb's on the call too. I think Winnebago and several other counties in the area have all contracted for the administration, which is also including kind of gathering up all these project ideas and then helping present those back to the supervisors.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Dan, and I know a number of counties that have done the same thing. And it also specifically allows for counties to use a part of the funding in administrative costs to do and hire groups such as this to oversee the funding for the county. So yes.
Jamie, it looks like there's a question on retroactivity. So can the money be spent retroactively? So if they do the project now and the money comes in the second year, can that money then be backfilled?
That's a good question. Go ahead.
Jamie, that's from Woodbury. I'd address that. You know, our supervisors have a big project going on that they're saying they can use some of these funds. You're probably aware of this.
Yeah.
And the first year's funding is gone. We're in the process of looking at and upgrading sewer and water in one of our campgrounds. We thought we'd do it this fall.
Yep.
But since we were told all the money's going to be gone the first go around, that we'd have to wait till the following year. If we were to identify that project and start forward, let's say in the fall or spring, that was my question. Would we be able to tap into that second round of money that second year?
That's a good question. And I don't know off the top of my head, but I will definitely look into that. And because I know I've heard of other counties too, where basically the money's all gone in this, basically this first tranche. But could they, use it and make approval on for things for that next year? And that I don't know. So I will find that out and let everyone know.
Like question on nature center, would a nature center construction fit into the category of tourism for COVID-19 response?
I would think so, yes.
And then looks like if county supervisors justify a project for money to be used, but the U.S. Treasury audits and sees differently, would it have to be reimbursed?
So it would have to be those funds that were expended potentially, that if U.S. Treasury audits and sees it differently, the county would have to pay the U.S. Treasury back.
All good questions. I think we've got most of them. Are there any counties out there that are currently working through this process that have projects kind of in the process and are moving forward with their supervisors as part of their overall plan?
Yeah, so what I've heard right now is everybody's kind of in the planning phase right now, and for lack of a better term, coming up with their wish list for each of the counties. And so, yeah, again, a number of the counties have created their own work groups and are looking at the list of projects and so forth. And then, sending, if they have questions with anything, sending it our way to see if those projects would be eligible. And so I'm more than happy at any time to be on another Zoom with all of you. If you come up with your another list of projects and so forth. But in the interim, like I said, the ISAC arp@iowacounties.org is our email address to specifically address specific questions. Obviously, I know a lot of you aren't shy and have called me before, and please don't hesitate to call me at any time. I'll give you all my cell phone number, and it's 515-210-9845. And then also my email address directly is jcashman@iowacounties.org. I'll address engineering bidding requirements. I guess if I would have to have some additional information on that, like in terms of the bidding process with the federal government or with the state or so forth. Is that what's being addressed from Roger?
Hey, this is Roger. I was trying to quick get it before you got finished, but just from what I've heard is, a lot of people are trying to figure out projects and do design. And I don't know if I missed this. I got interrupted doing some of your comments, but
Okay.
From what I've been told is that you have to be careful not to just employ an engineer like you might for your local project and go out and start doing design work, that you need to meet those federal requirements for bidding of engineering. So you need to go out and actually put out a formal RFP and do that. Is that your understanding as well, Jamie?
That it is. Yep.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that, because I know some of us tried jumping ahead and getting started on it, and we were told to back off that and make sure that we need to go through the formal process, even just to be getting quotes and designs on some of this if you're employing an engineer. So.
And I am typing into the chat my contact info. Hold on.
unless anybody has anything else, certainly want to thank Jamie for all the work he's put in on this and for joining us today. And hopefully it's been beneficial to everybody. And if you have additional questions, follow up with Jamie at the email that he provides and phone number there as well. I want to thank Tom for putting together this and juggling his schedule a little bit today and getting this organized for us. And thanks everybody for good turnout. Good. It's glad to see so many people out there looking to spend those federal dollars in their parks. Hopefully again, this was beneficial to you. And if you have questions, feel free to follow up afterwards.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.